Joining us on the Guadalupe Radio Network to talk more about the Jubilee Year of Hope is Father David DuBois. Father David is in retirement at St. Dominic Village, which is located in Houston. He's also getting ready to celebrate 45 years since his ordination. He was previously, Father David was at Sacred Heart in Pattinson, Texas. So, Father David, thanks so much for coming into the KSHJ studio. So nice to have you here.
Well, thank you very much.
Tell me a little bit about Jubilee Year of Hope, because I've been reading about Pope Leo XIV, who's now been welcoming a lot of pilgrims to the Vatican who are praying for this Jubilee Year of Hope. Just tell me your reflection on this being such a special year, and of course Pope Leo following in the footsteps of Pope Francis in that regard as well.
Well, I was ordained in Rome. I lived in Rome for many years, and we had several of these kinds of things going on. Different sorts of jubilees, special years, years of prayer, et cetera, reflection. And when you have a Jubilee Year of Hope, what does that mean? If you look around you right now, worldwide, do you have hope? Do you have a lot of hope? There are a lot of places which are absolutely devastated by war, famine, disease, poverty everywhere. We live in this country under a bell jar. We think that this is reality. It is not. Most of the people in the world are suffering, and suffering very greatly. Now, we may not be, but in this Jubilee Year of Hope, it falls upon us, it is incumbent upon us to pray for those who have no hope and to assist them at least by our prayers, if not by deed and by financial assistance, whatever, to give them some reason to continue living. A lot of people do not see that there is any point in going on. You would be amazed in some of these countries at the high suicide rate some of them seem to have.
Wow.
And so what you also have, too, is this malaise in our culture where we don't really have any anchor spiritually. We have a lot of things going on around us. We have a lot of distractions. We have new cars. We have new television shows and these kinds of things which for the moment give us a spark of exhilaration. But exhilaration is not happiness.
Yeah.
Exhilaration is not faith in God. Exhilaration does not come from something above. Exhilaration is a movement of the moment which does not last and disappears immediately. Mm-hmm. So what we have to have is a protracted program of trust in God, confidence in God, that will take us through any kind of experience. We have, if you want to go and look for some particular book that's going to give you insight, look at the writings of Sister Faustina Kowalska, the Divine Mercy Diary. She has all manner of expressions in there of her own, where she was in the dumps. She was sort of lackluster in her performance of duties and things like that. And she would immediately remember that God is with her at each moment. And she said that brought her right up out of it. She was able to not only continue her duties, but master them and work in a very wonderful way, which gave glory to God.
Yeah. Sister Faustina, pray for us. We need the help. And, you know, I always think of that, Jesus, I trust in you,
very much.
Quotation, because it's so powerful. So then, to that extent, then, Father David, like I said, a lot of people are praying this year for all those people around the world that may be suffering. They're also thinking about, again, the uniqueness of this being a Jubilee Year of Hope. I've heard the term plenary indulgence being thrown out there. Tell me what that means for people who might be unfamiliar, and how do we get a plenary indulgence?
Well, when something is indulged, it's giving something extra. An indulgence is if I give you chocolate cake with your ice cream and you weren't expecting it. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, an indulgence spiritually is more than you anticipated in the forgiveness of sin, the remission of punishment due to sin. An indulgence granted by the Church is something which, if practiced properly, if you perform all the duties that accrue to the indulgence, then you will receive remission from the punishment which is due to your offenses that you have committed against God. A plenary indulgence means that everything is taken away. Classic example, the feast day of Divine Mercy. Our Lord told Sister Faustina that the ones who go to confession and receive communion on that day will in fact receive remission of all their sins and all their punishments. That is one classic example, probably the biggest, the most important. We have others that are approved throughout the church over the centuries. Many of them are still in effect. Many popes gave this plenary indulgence to people, especially in times of war. In the Second World War, Pope Pius XII issued many statements about visiting certain churches or doing certain things, certain kinds of activities, certain kinds of prayer groups, which would remit sin to people. Remit the punishment due to sin in people. And then in this, that gave them some spark of continuing on. As I said, they were without hope. We have never experienced anything like that. We have never been bombarded. Our house has never disappeared. We have not seen children going up in flames before our very eyes and things like that. This is what people experienced actually and really in the Second World War. In the house I lived in Rome, for example, there was a tram track just outside across the street from our church at our student house. They were told that in probably around 1943, 44, there were many bodies laid one after the other all along the tracks for about, I would say, half a mile. Now, that's an incredible kind of thing. And so the plenary indulgence was issued to help these people who would be in danger of death to pray according to what the directives were of the indulgence, so that in case they were killed by bombardment, strafing, whatever, they would be ready to meet God in a much better way.
Okay.
More prepared in this kind of thing. The plenary indulgence strengthens the soul. It allows you to obtain more grace, so that in fact, in the end, you are someone before God who is going to be in a better spiritual condition than you were before.
So tell me then, in general, Father David, what tends to be those steps to get a plenary indulgence?
Well, that depends on who issued it. If you have a plenary indulgence issued by the Pope, most certainly it's going to contain frequent confession and communion. Mm-hmm. It's going to contain saying certain prayers each day. It's going to contain doing certain works of mercy. It's going to also contain steps of how you are to pass your day by taking prayer breaks, what I call the prayer breaks, morning, midday, evening for lay people, and not avoiding this, not saying, well, it doesn't really matter. I did that yesterday. I can do it tomorrow or something like that. To be very committed to this and to show God your goodwill in this particular instance by going through these steps, by going through these prayers and everything and these requirements, so that in fact you may receive the graces which accrue to the indulgence. The requirements will probably endure for probably a week or so, maybe a month, something like that. And then once completed, then you do receive the graces, the promises that are involved in the indulgence, and your soul is in a better place.
Very good. I like that idea, again, just frequent confession and communion, because you can't go wrong with that in general at any time. I also want to highlight the fact that we are blessed here in the greater Houston area to have several cathedrals that people can visit just as pilgrims. Now, this year, those cathedrals are not necessarily holy doors or anything, but they're great things to do if you're just looking for a good pilgrimage. If you haven't been to a cathedral in a while, it's great to just go there and pray. And aren't we blessed, Father Dave? We got the co-cathedral of the Sacred Heart. We've got the cathedral in Galveston, the original one. And then, of course, we have the ordinariate one, which is the Our Lady of Walsingham, the Cathedral of Our Lady of Walsingham. Just how blessed are we? Have you thought about that just in your years?
Well, that's a very good thing, and a lot of people don't know that these churches are there for them to go and worship, and especially in a Jubilee year. And I would like to remind everyone that it would be a very good thing, instead of going to a football game or something like that, to take the family and to visit these churches on different days, or maybe all in one day, and to receive graces for yourselves and for your families. And in this way, we can start being a more blessed people. When you have the blessing of God upon you, you also have the assurance that you're continuing in the right direction. I've noticed one thing, that people who have homes dedicated to God, consecrated to the Sacred Heart, consecrated to the Immaculate Heart, these homes are homes of peace. They want to go out and do holy things. What holy things are they going to do this year? Well, you can certainly visit the churches, the cathedrals. That's a wonderful thing to do. Also, increase your connection with other people in that You convince them to do the same thing, good works of all kinds. It is extremely important to do that. The Church of Our Lady of Guadalupe, where I celebrate Mass sometimes on the weekends, has a very strong group of people who go out and do street preaching. Mm-hmm. They walk out on the street and they just start preaching to people coming down the sidewalk. Well, yes, that's a very good thing. I'm very much in favor of it. In fact, I'm going to get involved myself, even though I walk with a cane because I need knee replacements. But I'm going to stand out there and do it. I don't care if it rains or what. But the thing is you're proclaiming the glory of God to people as they come along and are not expecting it. And I will tell you this. I go to visit the Veterans Hospital, too, over on West Holcomb, I'm sorry. And there are people in there who are just castaways. People have forgotten about them. You walk up and you visit with some of them. Some don't want you to visit with them. Some do. Most do. And when you say a prayer with them and you give them a blessing, they're just ever so glad that you came by to see them. Now, when you're doing that, again, back to the hope factor, you're giving them hope and a reason to continue. In this Jubilee year of hope, what would that mean? You're giving hope to people who don't have any hope. You're giving a reason to continue toward God to people who have probably fallen out of their faith. And there's a lot of people in this country who don't practice their faith. If, for example, you go down and you see people going to a football game downtown or some other place, droves of people are going. Droves, thousands of people are going. And they're spending per family $400 to $500. Now, do I see them coming into church in droves? No, I do not, and nor does anyone else see them coming in droves. They come in sprinkles here and there when they have time for it. I'll get to God when it's possible, when it's convenient. A faith of convenience is a faith without hope. It doesn't have any element of hope in there. It's just simply something that we do as far as an automatic activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an important reminder, but also a good reminder, like you said, we have the resources here. We're in the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston. We have the churches. If people want to go to Mass, they can. If they want to go to confession, they can. If they want to do all these things, it's absolutely they can do it. So then I want to ask you about one more thing, and that is St. Dominic Village here in Houston, close to the medical center, another gym here in the Archdiocese. For people who are unfamiliar with St. Dominic Village, that's where you are in retirement right now. Tell me about what that is.
Well, it formerly was a Dominican Sisters College many years ago. And then they quit having the college, and the diocese took it over. There is even a sub-chancery or a second chancery over there located on the grounds. The grounds are very well kept. It's a very kind of bucolic setting. The residence for the priest was recently built in the last few years under the governing of Bishop Joseph Fiorenzo. It's a $20 million center, and it's very well maintained. It's very beautiful. It's very, I would say, first class as far as the living arrangement is concerned. We each have our own efficiency apartment, and we've got travertine marble on the floor. Can you believe that? Now, why do we have that? Because it's easy to clean. As I lived in Rome, they had marble on all the floors throughout the entire city of Rome, and I said, isn't this expensive? They said, yes, it might be initially, but it stays. It doesn't buckle, it doesn't warp, it doesn't do anything else. So that's a wonderful thing. Plus, in our home where we live, we have all of our meals wonderfully provided, and they clean your apartment twice a week, and they do your laundry twice a week. Isn't that wonderful? I'm so happy they do that. I'm just sitting there, gee whiz, I never had this before. But the setting itself, all of the grounds that are there are very, very immaculately maintained, and it's a very lovely little island of, I would say, sanity and peace within the hubbub of Houston. And Houston is a hubbub. Just outside of it, you have Highway 288. You have Holcomb Boulevard, which is jammed with traffic all the time. But you don't seem to hear it behind the fence. It's sort of off in the distance somewhere.
Like its own oasis.
It's an oasis. It's great. A great oasis, a hope oasis.
Yeah. Father David, I notice as I'm talking to you, you have a lot of joy and you have a lot of energy. And even though you walk with a cane, you're 80 years old, you seem to be full of vibrancy here. What keeps you going?
Just get up and move. One of the things that I tell people, I say, you feel bad, you don't look good, whatever. I say, go and comb your hair, wash your face. You've got to walk with a cane, walk with a cane. You've got to be in a wheelchair, learn how to roll the wheels, this kind of thing. Because if you sit around and count your miseries one after the other, you will go on a very serious downer, perhaps even resulting in depression and all kinds of things. And people who do that don't tend to be very healthy. Mm-hmm. The more vibrant and dynamic you are, the more forward-looking you are, the more active you are in your life. Like myself, I try to get involved in a lot of activities that keeps you up and going and looking forward and wanting to do things and remembering that if they're for the glory of God, that is going to pull you onwards and upwards, as St. Paul says. We have to be enthusiastic, and enthusiasmo is a Greek word which means to be pulled upward, to go to high things, to look for the reason to be in the heavenly realm and all of that. And so that's what kind of all the different mix of messages that I've had over the years, that's the kind of thing that keeps me going.
Very good. A good reminder, of course, that we've got all of the priests there, I should say all the saints up there in heaven that are looking down on us, and that we can always call for them for help as well, especially when we're feeling down. So a lot of great things there. Father David DuBois, again, in retirement, St. Dominic Village, but also, Father David, again, one more congratulations coming up on your 45th year since ordination.
Wonderful. Thank you.
We thank you so much for your time and for being here.
Good. Very good. Thank you very much.